welcome back everyone to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fawn sitting over here.
Lorenzo, we got some Star Wars Resistance today. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Season 1, Episode 8, the Platform Classic. So this is bound to be a classic episode, I am sure.
Yes. As always, spoiler alert. We are talking about a brand new episode that aired. Yes. This episode aired November 25th. So if you have not seen it yet, go watch it. We're going to discuss the whole thing. I will do a quick summation here.
Yep.
And then Kevin and I will get into our feelings on this said episode. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we get into the episode itself?
Yeah, so I think that last week, at the end of Sanara's score, we omitted one little tidbit of our opinions. We like to do a one-word summation of the episode, and I think that we may have skipped that. So I'm going to give you my one-word opinion of Sanara's score, which is just messy, is
right.
What that episode was to me. And
that's a good word. Mine is close to that. Mine is clunky.
Ooh, very nice.
I found it very clunky.
Okay, so we are coming off a messy, clunky episode into the aforementioned Platform Classic. So what do we got going on?
Just some basic information. First of all, we kind of tackle some of this at the end sometimes. But this one's directed by Stuart Lee, written by Kevin Burke and Chris Wyatt. As we start out this episode, we see our Yeager crew, I guess is what I'm calling them, Tam and Niku and Kaz. They're just in the repair shop. Tam is telling them that they need to finish up some repairs quickly so that they can watch the Platform Classic, more so that they can have Yeager's approval to let them watch the Platform Classic.
Yeah, Tam's like, we got to do this so that we got to get this shit done so that Yeager allows us to watch the Classic. So.
Yes. So Kaz is looking very excited. He seems to have some sort of insider information. He's not really giving up the secret. He won't tell anybody. Yeager shows up and says that he wants to go. He's been called to go see Doza. Kaz asks if he can come along. He's very excited for something. Yeager and Tam both are trying to figure out why he's so excited. In Doza's office in the high tower, Doza asks Yeager to race in the Platform Classic. Yeager turns him down, and then another gentleman by the name of Marcus Speedstar shows up. Turns out that Marcus is Yeager's younger brother. Marcus does have a crew along with him. They are mentioned to be help me with this one, a Krasek or a Krasek?
That sounds correct.
Of some sort?
Yeah.
Right, some alien of either pronunciation of that sort named Oplok.
Yep. Oplok.
And an astromech droid called
R4D12.
And an astromech called R4D12. Yes. They're basically on the same color scheme. There's some back and forth between Yeager and Marcus. Yeager is not down for the plan to get back into racing. Marcus kind of goats on his older brother. There's clearly some past history, tension, whatever you want to call it there.
There's something going on, for sure.
Right. There is some sort of mystery. Yeager doesn't even want to talk to Marcus. Tam, Niku, and Kaz back at the repair shop tease that Marcus is a better pilot than Yeager because Yeager turns down the race. Yeager takes this as a challenge and accepts to go race. We cut to Marcus at Aunt Z's. He is confronted by a pair of Guavian death gang.
Yep, real quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
It's kind of in this interloping scene back at the dugout that we find out why Kaz was so giddy and essentially he had heard rumors that Speedstar was going to be on the platform, and for some reason he equated that with this pleasing Yeager. Not real sure why, but yeah. Then we cut over to Aunt Z's, so it is revealed like why Kaz was so excited at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. So it was basically just because Marcus Speedstar is a known racer throughout the galaxy, not just on the Colossus.
Correct.
Let's see. So at Aunt Z's, so we had a couple of Guavian Death Gang members show up. They confront Marcus. Something happened on Rishi that had Marcus in debt to these Guavians by about 20,000 credits. Marcus promises that he'll be able to pay them back after he wins the Platform Classic. As collateral, the Guavians take Oplok. And so we have some stakes here. Yeager comes to Aunt Z's to officially accept the challenge to race in the Platform Classic. Marcus kind of mentions that he really needs to win this race now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeager does not give him the time to listen.
Yeah, there's this weird brother-brother dynamic going on right here.
Right. Yeah, Yeager just basically doesn't want to talk to Marcus. Marcus does mention that he is short a mechanic, offers Kaz to work for Marcus. While Kaz is helping Marcus out on his ship, Kaz does ask Marcus about Yeager's time in the defense fleet, brings up that he knows that he fought at Jakku.
Yeah, we've got a cut back and forth between Kaz and Speedstar, and then Yeager and Tam, both working on ships, and we're kind of glancing back and forth between backstories, and it centers around some unknown event, and we're kind of seeing different different sides of the same coin here.
Yes. All the while, we don't really quite... my mouth just bumped the mic. We don't really quite get to the heart of the mystery. So the details that we do get is that during a race, Marcus used some hyperfuel, clipped Yeager's ship, and it ended badly. Kaz asks about the Guavians. Marcus reveals that he's not there only for the money to pay back the Guavians. He does understand that lives are at stake regarding some of his past actions. On Yeager's end, we kind of just get more of the same, just that Marcus hurt him really bad in some way, but we don't fully uncover what. So the next scene, we cut straight to the race. The race unfolds over various phases. So the race itself, I'm not really going to get into because the detailed zigzagging of what they're doing isn't important. There is a Go ahead.
I have the 3 different phases written down. If you want me to just say what they are, I don't.
Go for it.
So phase 1 is what they call an obstacle course. So the rings are kind of just spread throughout, and they just zigzag through them, right? And then phase 2 is called the climb, and this supposedly doesn't end until like the very edge of space. But when the racers go through that ring, it's got like an ion pulse on it that shuts their ship off, which puts them into phase 3, which is the powerless plummet, and they have to fall back down to the surface of the planet, hit one specific ring that jumpstarts their engines, and then it's like a home stretch sprint to the finish. This is the Platform Classic.
Yep. So during this, a conversation ensues between Yeager and Marcus. There are about 7 racers total throughout this, but the focus does remain mostly on Yeager and Marcus.
It's the conversation. It's the 5 aces, Speedstar, and Yeager.
Yep. So we discover that Yeager lost everything. Again, we don't immediately know what that means. He blames Marcus for this. Marcus does mention that he's been trying to explain his side of things and his feelings on things, and that he has been trying to apologize. After a few more maneuvers, we do get that Marcus caused the crash that killed Yeager's family.
Yep. Killed his
Marcus
wife and
apologizes. Wife and daughter, yeah. So Marcus apologizes, says people currently depend on him, and that's why he needs to win this race. That he has changed. He's not only in it for fame and glory anymore, as Yeager believes. Yeager believing this allows Marcus to win. Marcus then pays back the Guavians, gets Oplock back.
Mm-hmm.
We get another scene with Yeager and Marcus hugging it out. Marcus asks if they're good. Yeager says no, but they'll get there. And Marcus does say that, at least it's better than where they were before. We get another scene with Yeager thanking Kaz for kind of telling Yeager that he needs to forgive his brother and that it'll help everybody, and nobody wins when you don't allow forgiveness to happen. Then we get one last little scene where Kaz talks to BB-8 and says something to the effect that he's thinking that Yeager and him are becoming friends. BB-8 laughs this off, and Kaz is like, hey, but we're friends, right? And BB-8 just again stops him, rolls away.
He's like, well, we're at least buddies, aren't we?
Right? Pals? Confidants?
This is probably the best scene in this episode, is Kaz and BB-8. And, Kaz thinks that everybody's his buddies.
Right.
Yay, me and Yeager are friends now. Well, I mean, not friends like you and me, BB-8. What do you mean? What do you mean we're not friends? We're definitely friends.
Right.
We're at least buddies, right? Pals? Maybe?
No. So from there, Kaz is left alone in the shop, and fanfare ensues. So yeah, that's this episode in a very quick nutshell. Other notes I will bring up: Marcus Speedstar is voiced by a gentleman named Keston John. I have the Guavians as being voiced by two separate people, Matthew Wood and David Accord.
Oh, okay.
And Oplock is voiced by a Jonathan Lipow, I guess, Lipow.
Lipow. I think we've seen his name before.
Yeah, that one I was not familiar with. So those were the newbies I noticed in this episode. I didn't quite notice anybody else being new. So yeah, that's what we got on this one. So where do you want to start with this episode, good sir?
I want to start with, I think, Yeager's backstory. And
yes.
So it becomes apparent really quickly in this episode that each scene that we see is carefully crafted to give us a little bit of information about where Yeager comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that this is an effective bit of storytelling, or do you feel that this could have been done in a more efficient way to, I don't know. To me, it's like, okay, new scene, what do we get to learn about Yeager now?
Mm-hmm. I understand that sentiment. I personally had no major issue with it.
Okay.
I understand what the episode is doing. I don't think I would have felt anything more or less by learning the mystery at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And also because Yeager has been so secretive for the previous 7 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's an earned reveal.
Right.
I feel like it was better to have worked for it this last little episode and have an episode dedicated to it.
Okay.
Rather than just the brother shows up and via a word vomit, Yeager tells Kaz, Tam, and Niku,
Okay.
like, oh, this is why I don't talk to my brother, right? It's just...
So
it would be against his own character.
Yeah.
I would say.
Do you feel that it's necessary that Speedstar is Yeager's brother? Is that helpful to the point of the story? It seems kind of just like a moot point. Like, oh, it's another guy, different last name. Nico even brings it up. He's like, but if he's your brother, how do you have different last names? And Yeager's like, oh, you think Speedstar's real? Let me tell you what's real, Niku. Not Speedstar.
It didn't need to be brothers, but I do like that there was some history here, and I think the fact that they don't speak says more with the fact that they are brothers rather than if they were just friends or
like old rivals or something like that.
Yeah, old rivals, or like they used to be in some sort of gang together and then something went wrong.
Okay.
You know, does that make sense? Like that.
Yeah, I can totally dig that.
That's been done a lot too, where, you know, like, you've changed, man. Like, you used to be one of us, like robbing banks, but now you went good, right? Like,
hey there, Chewbacca,
that's a trope that
you
exists.
still hanging out with this scoundrel?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that Yeager does have family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there is somebody there that is. The thing with family is, like, there's a blood connection there that you can't get rid of no matter how much you try, to some degree, right?
Okay.
So I think the idea of forgiveness becomes stronger in this episode because of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it handled it decently well. And that joke with Niku, I did think was funny. So
You're coming around to Niku. You're doing
that
it.
was a well-landed joke. Yeah, it's if they can position Niku just right, you know, I don't have a problem with him existing. I just have a problem with the usage of him.
Yeah, he's a that joke is a better joke than the one they tried to set him up for, like towards the beginning of the episode when Kaz is all giddy and then he's like, I just heard some information, and if it's true, this is gonna be the best day ever, and gets all SpongeBob about like the platform classic, and then he's like, and Yeager's just gonna be so happy, and Niku's like, oh, I get what you're doing. You're setting us up for a joke because Yeager's never happy, and starts like laughing his ass off, and he's like, okay, tell us the joke, and there is no joke. Like, that's supposed to be the joke.
It just goes nowhere.
It does not work. My next thought / comment is, all of a sudden the high tower seems pretty easy access.
I was wondering that too, because it was weird to me that Yeager is the one invited to the high tower, but the whole crew shows up, and Doza by no means is upset with this.
No, he's just like, hey, what's up? Like, so we first saw the high tower in episode 4, the high tower. The children from Tehar, I think Kaz was back in the high tower there. Signal from Sector 6, I feel like they were back in the high tower. Sonara's score, maybe? I don't really remember.
There was definitely Yeager was definitely in the high tower to have the meeting about fixing the turbo Navi systems or whatever.
Yep. So really, for like the first 3 episodes, no, it's not even thought of. Then in episode 4, it's like brought up, like, hey, the high tower, like this elite fucking thing, and like since then it's just like, you know, whatever.
I wonder if Yeager's it's slightly mentioned because Yeager brings it up, like, hey, do you need something else fixed again? And I wonder if, because of Sonara's score of the events in that episode, if Yeager and his crew are now kind of on elevated status because of what they were able to do and fix and protect the Colossus.
Okay.
That was the only thing I got, but again, I agree that it's sort of abrupt based on how much setup they had given towards
Yeah, we
the
went
elite
from
status
some
of it.
giant alien guarding a turbo lift to just kind of coming and going as they
Right.
need, I guess.
Exactly.
Speaking of Sonara's score, there was a pirate attack. The Colossus was heavily damaged, right? So either one of a couple things happened, I think. Either there has been a bit of a passing of time here, or nobody gives a shit about like the low-level workers on the docks, because Doza, when talking to Yeager, says in effect like, we're using the platform classic to stimulate the economy, like we really need this, so we need it to be like bigger and better than ever. That's why I brought in Marcus Speedstar, and that's why I'm asking you to race. Like, this is the thing that could really do it. But then the prize is 100,000 credits.
Right.
If you have 100,000 credits, use that to like rebuild the Colossus, right?
Right.
To stimulate the economy, as opposed to like giving it out as prize money to potentially a person that has never been there before and is going to take the money and run, which is presumably what happens.
Is there a potential buy-in for the racers that needs to happen?
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like there were 7.
Yeah, Marcus and Yeager don't
They don't
clearly put anything in.
I mean,
so.
Marcus couldn't. He already owes the Guavian Death Gang 20,000 credits. So he doesn't have the credits to buy into the race. And there's only 7 racers in the race.
Right.
Which are the 5 aces, which are on the payroll of the Colossus.
Right.
And Marcus and Yeager. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and it's, it's like, hey, we really want you to race to like help push this thing, stimulate the economy and all. And it's tomorrow. So, I mean, I know that travel is pretty quick through hyperspace and in the Star Wars universe, right? But to get the news out that like Yeager and Speedstar are going to be racing each other, like you simply don't have the time to like get the info out and then bring people from off-world to the Colossus to rent hotels in the High Tower and spend their money and do all this other stuff. It's just a recycling of money that's already in the economy, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And considering that Speedstar wins, and we see him leave, right?
Yeah.
We see him leave the Colossus at least, not necessarily the planet. So you just effectively took 100,000 credits out of the economy and gave it to somebody somewhere else.
Yeah, those are all very good points, and what I find interesting too is if you listen very carefully at the end, Marcus does say that he pays off the 20,000, gets op block back, and then says, "And we have a little bit left over for ourselves."
Yeah,
but 80,000 extra credits. So I honestly thought we were gonna get a scene of him giving some of that money to Yeager.
Yeah, I think that would feel weird. That'd be like, sorry I killed your wife. Here's $20.
Well, I mean, all the same, he did let him win,
which is also weird.
Yeager was gonna win that.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
My next thing is the 2 compadres of Speedstar, Oplock and D12.
Right.
So, the rap group Dirty Dozen, D12. So I was looking up like Dirty Dozen and Pop Locking, right? Because I'm like, there's got to be a song or something, and there's some correlation, but it's not like there's a song like D12 Pop Lock or something like that. But it's just too close. Like, that's the only thing I could think about whenever they're like, oh yeah, Op Lock and D12. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, somebody likes the Dirty Dozen here, I guess. It's well known that and we've brought it up before, but it's well known that J.J. Abrams is a Beastie Boys fan.
Yes. Yeah.
We had Hello Asti as a character a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. It's
the
definitely not out
Tehar.
of. Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody's making a direct D12 Dirty Dozen reference.
And
I immediately that came to my mind too as soon as I heard D12.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm hoping that it's not gonna like be a thing now. You know, like next new director. You know, like I don't know. They have a character like Arianic Unir or something. You know,
it's gonna happen. Because they're just pulling I mean, look, with Clone Wars, we had an entire episode that was a Seven Samurai ripoff. You know what I mean? And like they're just pulling things from wherever.
I'm fine with that, but it just doesn't need to like, ooh, this is the new like, you know, Stan Lee, rest his soul, R.I.P. is gone. So like in the Star Wars universe, like the new thing is going to be like figure out what the director's favorite band is and, you know, what style of music they like by not so cleverly veiled character names like Oblak and Elo Asti.
Or Maz Kanata.
Maz Kanata.
Maz Kanata is another big one.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those, I don't know, that's fine.
I'll just say it was distracting for me.
For me, it's just like an Easter egg, right?
Okay.
Like, it's not as overt as a Stan Lee cameo, but it's just one of those things that's kind of there, right?
Okay. Next, I was going to jump into the race itself. We described the 3 different phases. During phase 1, one of the aces straight shoots down one of the other aces.
Right.
So I guess this is a thing, like, you can just shoot down your opponents, and that's...
Which I didn't understand because that racer is the only one that does that, so I don't
There's like some
know why others
bumping
don't.
and rubbing later that he does.
Right.
Which I think that seems legit,
fine.
but to just... The dude flies a
Straight
modified TIE fighter, right? He is a retired TIE fighter pilot from the Clone Wars, okay? And he's just living on the Colossus, you know, living up life, racing, enjoying whatever type of bar/cantina that they have in the high tower, chilling. And I guess to win every once in a while, he just shoots down his opponents, and then they just like hang out in the Aces Lounge later. Like, hey, you're cool. I'm cool. Whatever. I shot you down. No big deal. It was a completely unnecessary thing to include in this race. My next comment about this race is that Phase 2 is really just a straight upshoot to a single ring in the sky that shuts off your engine. And then Phase 3 is you just fall back down to another one. And Kaz says, Niku's like, ooh, I can't watch. This is the most dangerous part of the Platform Classic. And Kaz goes, yeah, but they're just gliding. And that was my feeling about this entire race. Like, there's very little dynamic to this thing. It's hard to show speed as a reference when you're like inside the cockpit, but they do just kind of look to be gliding around and kind of flying next to each other, and there's not, you know, it starts, Yeager's immediately in front, Speedstar's in second place, and it stays this way through the entire thing. We get a little bit of zigzag loop-de-loops through Phase 1, and then it's up to this thing, go through the ring, get your engine turned off, float back down, get your engine turned back on, sprint to the finish. But really, it's whoever gets through that ring first is going to be the one that wins, right?
Yeah, basically, because it's... I don't know what can change in that last sprint, you know, other than getting shot down by another racer. I agree that the addition of this masked racer causing issues for our other racers was a little much, because the episode is doing a fine job of trying to keep story focus on these two characters, Yeager and Marcus, with other extraneous info coming from Kaz and Niku and Tam, who do get sidelined in this episode, but I feel that's appropriate here.
I do too. I do as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree that then it becomes more awkward to then keep cutting to this third racer who's just doing questionable actions in a race.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a nice Imperial Cog tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And he follows the Aurebesh instructions on his ejection seat.
Right.
Because he does have to eject as he's trying to bump Marcus out of the way.
Yeah.
Marcus does like a nice little barrel roll or something, and Top Guns him, ends up upside down, and the dude isn't going to clear the turn your engine back on ring, so
right,
he's got to
goes
divert
right into the
and eject.
water.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, towards the end of the race, Marcus gives his best heartfelt apology to his brother Yeager. How do you feel this comes across to the viewer? Is this sincere? Is this just kind of... To me, it felt kind of like a wrap-up of Yeager's backstory. This is where we learn what happened. This is where we find out where his family went and that it's his brother's fault. And then his brother is like, I couldn't tell you then, and it's hard for me to tell you now, but I loved you, and I loved them, and I think about them every day, and I think about you every day, and I've just spent my life searching for you since then, which makes it sound like Yeager's been in hiding. So then that also...
Which is possible, yeah.
It is possible, but that also goes back to the question, I guess, if Doza was like, yeah, Yeager's racing in our race, then everybody'd be like, oh shit, we haven't seen Yeager, like, where's he been? Let's go watch. I don't know. But it falls a little... This apology falls a little bit limp to me.
I thought it was fine. Again, it's just in the weird, efficient storytelling of a 22-minute episode. I appreciate that we got a full wrap-up and that this mystery wasn't extended any longer.
Okay.
Honestly. It is weird that it's happening via the comms. Like, are the other racers hearing this? That's my other question.
That is a very good
question. Or are
question.
they linked to just each other?
Maybe they just opened a comm channel between the two of them. Like, maybe they could also be talking to the other racers, the aces, if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we definitely see the aces during, you know, defending combat missions of the Colossus. They can talk to each other. So I guess it's
right.
I guess it's as simple as you know, open the channel, close the channel, maybe.
That's possible, yeah. So that's kind of it's a weird spot for this conversation. Mm-hmm. But again, just in terms of how this story is playing out, I thought it was fine. You know, it closed it out well, and I like that we kind of get a full understanding of Marcus's positioning as well. And to be honest, I thought it did a good job of making Yeager also look like an asshole, even though he is a victim as well. Like, but by not accepting that Marcus might have also been a victim in that situation, that
I don't know if I can buy Marcus's victimship.
I don't know. I think because like he lost his family too, whether it be extended or immediate. You know.
Yeah, but he's the cause of it.
And I get that he is the cause of it, but it's what I'm getting at is that it's a mistake that he knows he made, right? Mm-hmm. But Yeager didn't even hear him out to apologize. Like there's no going back, but at the very least, you have to understand that even the person who makes the mistake might be going through their own emotions as well, right?
I can understand that, but I can't say that he is a victim in this situation as well. I can't do that.
Okay, that's fine. That's just how I got the explanation of what Marcus was trying to say there in that last moment as they were finishing the race.
Mm. So how do you feel about Yeager just peeling off? Not even really like the last moment, just like, okay, like I could have won. Everybody sees that I would have won. I'm just going to, we'll just pull up and I'll just pull out of the race here.
I thought that was fine. Again, that just helps to sell the idea that Yeager sees some sort of change in his brother.
I was definitely expecting Yeager to say something to the effect of, I'm compassionate for your current situation of losing your mechanic / lover potentially, and but you're still never gonna beat me. Wins, gives him the 20,000 credits to fucking pay off the Guavian Death Gang.
I also thought that was gonna happen as well, but because they make this such a big point about how Marcus could never beat Yeager, that I think it was needed that Yeager doesn't win the race.
And so this is just popping into my head now, like it was the greed and the desire to beat Yeager that brought on the circumstance that put Marcus in the position where he felt he needed to use more fuel for the fire, if you know what I mean. And that's how this accident occurred that ended in the death of Yeager's family. So maybe this is Yeager admitting to himself that things could have been different if it wasn't as competitive of a relationship. So he's relenting and letting his little brother win, like get the victory for once. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of that's essentially what I saw out of this story and this arc.
That's pretty heavy for like a Y7 show.
Right. I agree, but and also I like the way in which this was all structured, because there is a lot of inferred arc that you need to see leading into this last 22-minute clip, that section of story that we see, right?
Okay.
I kind of appreciate that, and for a Y7 audience, that they would have to make these connections rather than just seeing what occurs only in this episode, right? I do, however, wish that instead of spending time getting the back and forth between Yeager and Marcus, that we got some sort of actual visuals on what might have happened.
Like
some sort of
flashback or memories, or say
even news footage or something.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do it this way, where after like the Doza meeting, Yeager, storms off or whatever, we get a flashback. Yeager or Marcus like wake up, because they're like reliving this over and over again, and maybe do it a little more visually and a little less during this
through
really
dialogue.
exciting race. We're just gonna kind of banter back and forth over open comm.
I understand the level of animation that would require in terms of like animating a crowd and a crash and a fiery spectacle, but being that the show clearly really much so stays on the Colossus, with the exception of signal from Sector 6, I guess.
Yeah, and I think in the Recruit, because we do see Starkiller Base.
Right. Yeah,
so we do get a little bit of space stuff.
Yeah. But the sets are still very limited. You know, like we either hop back between Starkiller and Colossus, get a final scene with something on Starkiller.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the idea of having to then build out new models, new sets, all of that, and I understand the limitations there, but all the same, I think it would have hit a little bit harder if we had seen just some glimpse of visuals to what they experienced.
I agree with you. The last note that I have is that apparently 8 of these little credit chips equal 20,000 credits. We have seen these things before, and they have the same symbol on them, which is like a 4 or a 7 or something, right? And Marcus just hands over 8 of these, so they're like $2,500 a piece. It's like a $2,500 gold bar.
And the Guavians are happy about this. So
yeah, they just.
Oh, can we talk about the Guavians? Do we know anything about the Guavians, by the way? Are they from a planet called Guava?
I'm not sure. I do know 2 things about them. One,
okay.
My wife has a blender, and the base of the blender is red with like the controls like a dark circle. So, I had viewed this episode a couple days ago, and today I was in the kitchen and I was in the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna go rewatch the platform classic. And I was thinking about the Guavians for some reason. I looked over and I was like, holy shit, that looks like a fucking Guavian's head right there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I know is that they, as far as I can tell, the first time that we would have seen them, chronologically this would be it, but as far as entertainment that has come out before would be in The Force Awakens, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's all that I know.
That's all we really know about them.
That's all that I know about them.
Yeah.
If you want, I can look them up real quick.
That's it. I just thought their name was funny because...
Yeah, the only other thing that happens in the episode is
So that's about all I have for this episode.
Did you say that is all you have, or that's not all you have?
Oh, that's all I got, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have on this episode.
We get a reconciliation and a things are going to get better hug, and then, Kaz and BB-8 discussing friendship, which is great.
Yeah.
So, what you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down, man?
I'm going to give this one a thumbs up. This, I think, definitely compared to the rest of the series thus far, this one has a story to tell and tells it in a way that is quite efficient, doesn't waste too much time, and in fact even kind of removes Kaz from the situation, really. There, like we discussed, there possibly could have been better ways to do it rather than having this weird race involved. But I do appreciate when a show will take a moment to maybe, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, the larger story at hand has been paused, but you know, we got a moment to kind of figure out part of Yeager's backstory and why he is the way he is, and allow for some growth from that. So, with the I thought it, like I said, it's decently well told. Yeah, it's fine.
I understand your positive points.
Right. Yeah.
I do not agree that they came across the same way to me. I think it is nice that we do get some backstory of Yeager. I think that the way that the information is presented feels a little bit forced. Like, this show, and I just recently watched like all of the build-up and supplemental material on Star Wars' YouTube channel.
Uh-huh.
Like, I watched all the Resistance stuff, and repeatedly the creators of the show are like, man, this is just going to be awesome. Like, we got racers and races, and there's these ace pilots, and it's all high speed. Like, everything's just, like, so fast, and, like, it's going to be awesome. And we don't get that. So, you know, for the platform classic, like, we need, like, this fast, quick rate. Like, it was presented as, like, a racing show with a spy guy. Right. And I don't feel like that is what we have seen. We've seen a little bit of it, but it's definitely not like the central theme of this show. So to take Yeager's backstory and like smush it in with this supposed big event thing just feels unnecessary. I think that the information could have been presented to us a little bit differently. You know, maybe I know you really enjoyed like stepping back from Kaz a little bit, but maybe let Kaz develop as a character and actually be a spy and find this information out through spying techniques, and then he could go to Yeager and they could have some growth in their relationship as characters, instead of like intro new guy, have this thing, front of a race, yada yada yada, end of episode. Oh, by the way, I'm giving this one a thumbs down, if you didn't know.
Right. Yeah. So here's my thing. I have no expectations that I was getting a racing show. You know, like,
okay,
that's not what I'm looking for out of Resistance.
And I'm not saying I'm looking for it either. I'm just saying that the trailers and Dave Filoni and other people associated with the show before the Recruit ever hit air talked about this like it was this super dynamic, super exciting. We're gonna see racing and.
But then why are you pinning that on this single episode?
I'm not. I'm just bringing it up on this episode.
Okay.
Because this one has to do with a race, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like this is my thing where it's like, yeah, the race isn't that exciting, but that's not the main point of that scene. That's why I don't knock that scene for not being exciting on those terms. Does that make sense?
And yeah, and I can totally get that.
So that this episode itself doesn't promise anything of that sort per se.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I get what you're saying in terms of like an advertising expectation standpoint.
Right.
But to me there's nothing about this episode specifically that lets me down on those terms. So that, yeah, like as an episode on its own, I don't have that many issues with it. There are definitely, I agree with you. There are issues and things could have been definitely told better.
This really felt like a filler episode to me. My one-word review is going to be setup.
Right.
And not that, like, we were set up for some other type of expectation, but it feels like all of this is...
to set up for something.
To set up for something else. And if that happens, then to me, this will be a better episode. If that doesn't happen, and unfortunately what we have seen a handful of times on this show is that there's, like, some shit that happens in an episode, and then you don't come back to it. Like,
oh yeah, completely.
In the Recruit, we had the little dude that started like a darts bet with Kaz, and so Kaz owes him like 100,000 credits or some shit.
Right.
That's, you know, like where that went nowhere. Like,
see, again, I understand what you're saying, but this is the time I'm going to say singularly judging this episode on its own, just getting to know Yeager, I think, was good enough.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a great 30 minutes of television. I'm not saying this is the best episode this week on television at all.
Right.
I'm just saying, for this little nugget here, this is a okay episode. And personally, I will say I think this is, of this whole series, definitely one of the stronger episodes.
Okay.
But I don't think that's saying much because a lot of my thumbs down weren't middle of the road, I would say. They were definitely heavier thumbs downs.
Right. Yes.
Especially after, like, Sonara's score. Yeah, how many thumbs up do I have up to this point? Or is this the first?
This is at least the third.
Okay, so there's been a few in there. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's, actually, out of 8 episodes, that's not awful. But just, definitely from recent memory, I don't disagree that this show still, stepping back now from my microscope of just this episode, on the grand scale of things, this show does still have a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we do a season end wrap up, which I think would be not a bad idea, actually.
Sure.
Speaking out loud, there for an overall thumbs up, thumbs down, like there's definitely still a lot this show needs to do to get me on its side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that my thumbs down is specifically looking at this episode,
right,
in vacuum, and
yes,
I'm like, okay, yeah, we got some setup for something else, like,
right,
alrighty, there's not enough substance here to get me excited for what's happening next, but hopefully whatever happens next builds off of this, and then I go, okay, like, it was worth a little speed bump to get to this, and that speed bump was important for whatever this is.
See, I just think it's really funny that you're seeing this all as filler and setup, where I felt that this story was completed. I am done with any backstory shit on Yeager, like, and I agree. Like I said, it definitely sidesteps the bigger universe.
Mm-hmm.
We lose Phasma, we lose Commander Pyre, right? We lose all that to just focus on these two dudes, and even Kaz gets sidestepped, right? And I think it's funny that our perspectives are different in this, because I am totally just fine with that.
Yeah, and
because it's
yep,
like it's kind of like Go ahead.
I totally know where you're coming from,
right?
And I appreciate your positive outlook on it. It just fails for me. Like,
I
can
that's
see
fine.
that's what the attempt was, but for me it was like, okay, here's a little bit. That's it.
Yeah.
So
no, I understand too. So, yeah.
I will say it did leave me wanting for more. If that's positive or not,
Again, that's funny, because after this episode, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. We'll just fucking see what happens next episode.
I guess I just want to see, like, where does Yeager go from here? Like,
okay.
We know, before he was just kind of like this gruff dude that we knew had, fought in the Resistance, fought in the Battle of Jakku.
Right.
I guess that was the Rebel Alliance back then? Maybe? I'll have to look into that.
Because that takes place still after the fall of the Emperor.
Fall of the Emperor, but not fall
right?
of the Empire.
Empire, right, yeah.
So
that's why I want to enunciate that well.
Yes. So it was like, he had a little bit of mystery. We do find out about his family, but not necessarily about, like, everything that's going on with him. I guess we found out, like, why he is here on Colossus. He kind of went into hiding, That's why he's staying away from from Poe and the New Resistance and doesn't want anything to do with that. But for me, where does he go next? This is episode 8 out of 22, right? Mm-hmm. So we got another 14 episodes of this season. Where's he going?
Oh, without a doubt, he's going to pick up a gun and start fighting at some point. It's not going to be next episode.
Right.
But it's going to happen. Like, putting on going full speculation mode, since we've kind of opened that door here.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah, there is a moment when the race concludes there's a shot of Doza with an interesting little smirk on his face.
Yeah, he seems pleased that Yeager threw the race.
Right. So to me, like I said, Yeager's path is fairly clear to me, and I'll be happy if I am surprised as we finish out the last 2/3 of the season.
Right.
Doza is the character that's interesting to me. I don't understand Doza yet, because he wants to protect the Colossus, but then he calls Pyre. He tries to keep the Colossus from Pyre, but then gives it over to him because pirates, like, like they defended themselves from pirates, okay, but then still calls Pyre. Like, I don't know what this dude's motivations are.
He's got to be smart enough to know that the pirates are working with Pyre, right?
Does he? I
don't know.
Is he? Yeah, so this is why
like
Pyre's...
Half the time he seems like he's in on it, and half the time he doesn't seem like he's in on it.
Right.
I'm not really sure.
Right, so that's kind of my question on him. Because also, like, at first, like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's like this big setup that the High Tower is this, like, elite spot. But then he's good friends with Yeager, and we didn't really quite know that before. But then I guess it's because Yeager was a good racer, like,
And also, didn't Yeager and crew figure out that Pyre was, like, secreting fuel to the High Tower and, like, living the life of luxury and doing some shady shit and working with the pirates or whatever?
I don't recall that at all, honestly.
I'm pretty sure that was part of the plot line to the High Tower.
Is that something the characters discovered or something we discovered as viewers?
It was definitely something that Kaz discovered.
You might be right. Is that when he called Aloe Nasty?
Yes. Well, no, that was the children from Tehar. That was the following episode.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's when he accidentally ended up in Doza's daughter's room, and then she covered for him, and
it's all gone from me already. Like, which is again, looking at the grand scheme of things, that's bad.
You'll just have to go back and listen to that episode, Lorenzo.
Oh boy!
Or you could watch that episode on, or at least watch a static image while listening to our commentary on YouTube.
I'm just gonna let somebody I'm gonna just let somebody sum this shit up for me later on.
I'll fill you in off mic.
Right.
We'll go that way.
Right. All right. Anything else you got to say about this episode, good sir?
That's all I've got here. This one was a little disappointing for me, so I've got high hopes. I'm thinking things are gonna pull me back up into the High Tower. And
I like for you, maybe this is part of it too, where like the last handful of episodes, like I'm just so not into this show as a whole, right?
I want to be into this show. I do.
As do I. Like, I'm not trying to actively pull away from us talking about the show, or like I'm not gonna not watch this. But like I said, the test I'm playing with myself is, if we didn't have to talk about this week to week,
would you watch
it? Would I watch it week to week, or would I let it build up and then at some point be like, oh shit, I should probably maybe pay attention to some of this? Shrug shoulders, right?
Right.
And the realization that I have no idea what you're talking about for the first 7 episodes of this show is not good.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, so I just think it's funny that I'm just like pleasantly surprised by this one, but you didn't like this episode and you are still hoping for good things to come.
I am.
Whereas I liked this episode, and I'm even at the end of the episode, I'm like, that was a good episode, but thought nothing of the future for this show.
Yeah.
I just let it be there. I just left it, and I'm like, cool.
I think this show has potential. This will be my last comment. I think this show has potential, and I really, really felt let down here, and I want this show to prove me wrong and redeem itself.
Yeah.
Because there has been some cool stuff. There's been some cool setup, and then it's like we hit this one, and it was like, okay, whatever. That stuff happened. Like, I don't know.
That's fine.
That's
cool.
all I got. So,
we'll leave it there. We'll close out with our usual. We want to thank Kevin Warren at They Call Me K-Dub on Twitter, who put together our artwork. We also like to thank Lindsay at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com if you want to contact her. She's the one who put together the jingle at the beginning and end of our episodes. If you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us by email. That's notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. Kevin here is in charge of our Twitter at nottthenerds. I handle our Facebook side of things. That's at notthenerdspodcast. We're available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, I believe. Episodes also go onto YouTube. So wherever you're listening to us, please like, subscribe, share, all that goodness. Did I miss anything there?
Nope. You are golden, man. You are on top of it. I will say that the next thing that you're going to hear from us is back on the Clone Wars, an episode called The Deserter. And then next week, when we jump back to Resistance, that will be Secrets and Holograms. So until then, I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo over here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.